Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Premanandi.
When the arm and the leg have to be in the same direction, and then it won't tilt. The science of microphone stands. Now, if you all sit back there and people come in after you, what's going to happen? Better ask you to come forward now because we'll have to do it later. And make it less disruptive to do it now than later. Is there anyone here not familiar with Ramayana and needing a little introduction to Ramayana? How about our kids? You know something about Ramayana, Lord Ramachandra? Nothing, right? How about you? A little bit. A lot. Oh, you're going to like this. And this young girl over here, how about you? Ramayana, Lord Ramachandra? 0, right? Okay. Ramachandra. When you hear Lord Ramachandra's name, what comes to your mind? Ramachandra, what comes to your mind? Ramachandra. Who was Ramachandra's beloved wife or consort? Her name starts with an S. You know. Sita, right? Sita Ram, right? Sita Ram. And they were in the forest for a long time with one of Ram's brothers, and his brother's name starts with an L. You know, but I'm just these two. I'm getting them a little animated, tuned in. Lakshmana. You heard his name? Sita Ram Lakshman. And there's often a fourth personality who's with Sita Ram and Lakshman. And he's a Vanar or a monkey. You know that one. Name starts with Hanuman. Yes? Hanuman. Okay. Okay. Every year, for many, many, many years, maybe 25 years or more, a group of us have been conducting a retreat at our farm community in Pennsylvania called Gita Nagari. Gita Nagari is a farm. Prabhupada gave it the name, Gita Nagari. And during that retreat, we have a theme and a theme and a theme. And this past Memorial Day weekend theme was lessons from Ramayana. There were 4 or 5 different speakers. Everyone had that theme, lessons from Ramayana. So I spoke on a number of personalities, and now I've added this one personality, Jatayu, some lessons to learn from Ramayana, and a lesson that's being imparted by Jatayu. And specifically, there's the meeting and then the departure of Jatayu, as you see in the painting, that's Ravana. Ravana is a demon, bad guy. And the bad guy, Ravana, took his sword and chopped off Jatayu's wings as he's carrying Sita away. And poor Sita is cringing, seeing Jatayu give up his life in order to protect her. He knew, Jatayu knew. It's right in Ramayana. He's narrating to Ramachandra what happened and what you see here. But when Ravana came and kidnapped Sita, he said to Ramachandra, when Ramachandra found him with his wings chopped off, that when I went to attack to protect Sita, I have a special benediction from Garuda, because Garuda is an eagle, of course, not just an ordinary eagle, he's an associate of the Supreme Lord. But he had this blessing from Garuda that in the sky he could be invincible, he would be invincible. But this demon, Ravana, is scourge of the whole universe, and my strength against his strength is nothing. It's like a fly compared to a big bird. Nothing. I knew I would give up my life, but I couldn't live seeing Sita being kidnapped. Better to give up my life. And so he did. And there's a lesson in the part that I'm going to speak about more specifically. We'll give a little bit about who he is, but he somehow became very dear to Ramachandra. And some of you know there's a lengthy description of names of Vishnu Sahasranam. And one of the names of Vishnu Sahasranam is Udaradi. And the little drawing here is a drawing of Baladev Vidyabhusan made a commentary on every one of the 1,000 names of Vishnu. Very sweet. And his commentary on this name, Udaradi, he explains that the Lord's generosity, because it's a quality, but he's generous, so he is Udaradi. It can be seen by the fact that he liberally granted Jatayu and many others the great treasure of his lotus feet, which are difficult to attain even by becoming the most learned Vedic scholar. So scholarship is not the qualification to become dear. It's service mood, and Jatayu certainly had that service mood. Baladev goes on to write, he personally performed the funeral ceremony of the great devotee Jatayu. In this way, the Lord appeared before his devotee and showed his love for Jatayu. So he's generous. He's the Supreme Lord. Ramachandra is the Supreme Lord. But he holds very dear to him I can see there's going to be a problem this evening. He holds very dear to him those who want to serve him. And that's Jatayu. Jatayu wanted to serve him. Now, and one more reference is from recently we completed a visit to Udupi and Melkote and some other places where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited during the course of his South India tour. It was nice. There was about 450 of us together in these places, and we heard many nice stories. And one of the nice stories was about the three deities that Madhvacharya received and installed and worshipped. At least he installed and worshipped Udupi Krishna. And there's meanings of Janardana found in different places in the scripture. Here's the painting of the deity of Udupi Krishna. The long story behind that deity of Udupi Krishna. Here's a quick version of the long story. During Krishna's pastimes in Dwaraka, Devaki was also there. Vasudeva and Devaki were also in Dwaraka. You know, they were his mother and father, and they were separated from him during his pastimes in Vrindavan. And then he came back to Mathura, and then he freed them from the prison house of Kamsa. And when everybody together left Mathura, went to Dwaraka, they went to Dwaraka. So they were with Krishna many, many, many years, except for the Vrindavan Leela part of Krishna's life, and their mother and father. So one day, Devaki said, I didn't have the good fortune of experiencing your childhood pastimes in Vrindavan. Is it possible you could show me your childhood pastimes like in Vrindavan? And Krishna said, sure. And poof, he transformed himself into a little child. And he was on the lap of his mother and playing games and pulling with her hair and, doing little child things, playing and playing and playing. And then he withdrew that form and showed his adult form. When he showed his adult form, Rukmini observed the whole thing. Krishna's playing with Devaki like a little boy, because she hadn't seen either, but she saw Krishna's childhood form. So she then asked Krishna, could you arrange a deity for me of that form? I'd like to worship. So Krishna said, sure. And he approached Vishwakarma, who made this deity of Krishna. It's a childhood form. He's holding a stick for controlling the cows and a rope for controlling the cows. And she worshipped that deity in Dwaraka for a long time. However, when the pastimes of Krishna were going to be ended, the instruction was for Krishna's chariot driver. What was Krishna's chariot driver's name? Do you remember? Name starts with a D. Daruka. Daruka? Krishna's chariot driver. Okay, Daruka. Now you know. There's more than one Daruka. Daruka had a cowherd boyfriend named Daruka also. Daruka. But Daruka is in the mood of servitorship, and the chariot driver Daruka was different than the cowherd boy Daruka. He is also in the mood of servitorship. So Daruka was sent by Krishna. Go to Dwaraka swiftly. My departure is about to occur. Let the devotees in Dwaraka know that my pastimes are going to end, and very soon the whole of Dwaraka is going to disappear in the water again, because Dwaraka was an island. And therefore, the paraphernalia, which is all worshipable, paraphernalia of Krishna is as worshipable as Krishna is, was all taken to a safe place on the mainland, not at the island. Specifically, that the history says that Arjuna took the deity of this deity that you see in this painting, took this deity and placed it in a safe place, and years and years and years and years and years and centuries passed, and over a period of time, that deity became covered in chandan, clay. And some time passed, and some boatmen wanted some ballast for their ship. And so they took the big chunk of clay and put it in the hull of their ship as ballast for the ship. Ballast means so the ship doesn't rock as much this way, that way in the waves. it's got a lot of weight at the bottom, at the hull of the ship. You know the pastime? Here's the pastime. One day, Madhvacharya, now a young sannyasi, was living in Udupi because there was a celebrated temple, Ananteshwara temple in Udupi, that was at the center of the Brahmana community. And he was from that Brahmana, his father and he were from that Brahmana community, so he was residing in Udupi. And by inspiration, one day he wanted to go to the sea to take his bath. On his way to the sea to take his bath, two things happened. He felt a strong internal sense that he was going to meet Krishna that day. And in anticipation of meeting Krishna, the second thing happened. Some verses, some stotras spontaneously started to appear in his mind. He didn't write them down. He didn't have a, message machine with him. He just, his mind, he had a good memory. So he's composing in his mind these prayers to Krishna. He reached the sea. He took his bath in the sea. And lo and behold, in the sea, there was a big cargo ship that got stuck on a sandbar in the sea. Not, far out, but invisible sight. Madhvacharya felt compassion. So what did he do? He took his handkerchief and waved his handkerchief. And by waving his handkerchief, the boat became free from the sandbar. Powerful handkerchief, right? And the captain of the ship saw all this, and he understood the connection. It was Madhvacharya that released him from the sandbar. And so Madhvacharya motioned with his hand for the captain to bring the ship to the shore, close enough to the shore he could come out, got in a boat, came to the shore, paid his respects to Madhvacharya, and said, "You saved me. So I'd like to reciprocate with you in some way. Please ask for something that I can do for you." And he said, "I'm a sannyasi, I don't need. But I have an understanding. In the hull of your ship, there's a big block of clay, which will be chandan. Can you give that to me?" The captain said, "Sure, I'll get some other ballast for my ship." So he sent 30 men to lift the big chunk of clay. 30 men couldn't lift it. Madhvacharya said, "Let me lift it." And he lifted it because he's Bhima or Hanuman or an incarnation of Vayu. So he's walking back to Udupi with this chunk of chandan, and it broke open as he was carrying it. And part of what he saw when it broke open was this deity. So after returning to Udupi and cleaning the deity, he installed the deity, and he personally, for years and years, worshipped Udupi Krishna. And there's two other deities that were also in that chandan. I'm looking for the slide changer. Okay. On the left is Udupi Krishna, and at the center is Balaram. There's a Balaram deity who visited that place. It's a little north. It's north of Udupi. Melkote is the place, near Melkote. And down below is where the Janardhan deity is. So we're going to spend a little bit of time with some of the meanings of the names of Janardhan. And there's a grammar book, having heard about his system of teaching grammar by teaching names of Hare, wrote a book. That's the title of the book. Harinamamrita Vyakarana. So in that book, translated into English, there's a nice description of one of Krishna's qualities, or Ramchandra's qualities, that translates, "One who desires the surrendered souls in his presence as servitors." It's a system for teaching grammar, but it's just extracting that passage. The painting on the left shows when Ramchandra came back to Ayodhya, he gave everybody an opportunity to serve him. The Vanaras, this and that and the other thing. He is very merciful. This is part of his merciful nature. And on the right side is Krishna with the cowherd boys. And similarly, Krishna gave service to everybody. It was enjoying the happiness of being in the company of his devotees. So we have temples because we like coming together and glorifying Krishna, but we should know Krishna likes. In fact, it's nice, it's likable for us because it's likable for Krishna. And similarly, in this same text, the same is true for Jatayu that we just heard. He's very merciful, and Krishna, Ramachandra, desired very much being in the company of Jatayu at the time of Jatayu's departure. He came and he personally performed his funeral, saying, I didn't get to perform the funeral for my father, but now one who is like my father, I am able to perform his funeral. So like he would have done for his father, he's now doing for Jatayu. And Jatayu was certainly a surrendered soul. And Lord Ramachandra liked being with him. Of course, there's a sadness in how it happened, etc. But Jatayu was a very dear devotee. And Ramachandra showed his mercy to him. So there's some lessons embedded in all of this. We're going to go back. You know this story, but you'll like the pictures at least. Since you know Ramayana well, you'll be on the edge of your straw mat over there, catching all the nice pictures and the storyline. If I make a mistake, you can correct me, it's okay. This is a painting meant to illustrate when Ram first went into the Dandak forest, what it was like. No, it doesn't show them dressed in tree bark, but there's Lakshmana. Who is Lakshmana? He's the one in the back. Yeah, on the left. There he's in the back. He's standing behind his elder brother, just guarding, protecting, being his servant. He liked the idea of being the servant of Ram. Although they're brothers, he liked the idea of being the servant of Ram. And there's Sita and Lakshman. Now, in the course of time, they met. This is 10 years into their time spent in the Dandak forest. He met Agastya Muni. A nice painting. There's the three. That's Sitaram, Lakshman, and Hanuman, meeting Agastya Muni. Because just before that, Ramchandra had met Sutikshna. And Sutikshna said, oh, you got to see my brother Agastya. So go that way and you'll find Agastya. So he went and he found Agastya. And Agastya knew, because he's Agastya, he knew that Ramachandra would need powerful weapons. And so he gave him the gift of celestial weapons to deal with Ravana, etc., etc. Now, at this point, Sita hasn't been kidnapped. There she is sitting next to Ramchandra's side. And then again, there's Lakshman behind them doing the protecting program. And there's a very nice section in Ramayana describing what the ashram of Agastya was like. It sounds very heavenly, tranquil, full of lotus flowers and nice leaves of trees and fragrances from the flowers and so forth. Another nice painting, they're meeting Agastya. And another nice painting, same scene. There's Agastya on the left with some sage behind him. There's Ram, Lakshman, and Sita. Now somehow Jambavan and Hanuman got into this picture, but they don't belong there. And then as they're going further, Ram meets Jatayu. And when they meet Jatayu, there's apprehension. because they think, uh-oh, Rakshasa doing a trick. So they ready themselves in case that was the case. But Jatayu then began speaking. And the way that Jatayu was speaking of his service to Dasarath and his affection and friendship with knowing intimate details of Ayodhya, Ramachandra and Lakshman could understand very well. He's not a Rakshasa. He's a trustworthy person. And Jatayu asked to be a protector because he's in this body of a vulture. He has big wingspan, very powerful, and he's warrior-like, and I can give protection. Can I just stand guard and make sure that no harm comes to Sita? So he asked for some service. And Ram accepted his service and especially appreciated that he was a very dear friend of his father. Friend. There we see in the background, there's Lakshmana building a cottage. And a little bit in the background, there's Jatayu, who's, standing watch. And Jatayu had a brother, Sampati. Sampati plays a very important role later in Ramayana, but they're two brothers. The elder brother is Sampati, the younger brother is Jatayu, and they're both sons of Aruna. Aruna meaning the chariot driver of the sun god, because before the sun rises, there's dawn. But that's another meaning of Aruna, dawn. But the dawn precedes the sun. So the chariot driver of the sun god is Aruna. And Aruna had a brother, Garuda. This is how Jatayu got the benediction from Garuda, because it's his uncle. So Garuda and Aruna were both sons of Vinita and Kashyapa. This is going way back in the Bhagavatam, as well as Ramayana, that the early stages of creation, without all the details, but this is just a little biographical history of everybody. So there's Jatayu standing guard over Sita, Ram, and Lakshman, and at Panchavati, which was recommended as a nice place for them to stay by Agastya. And here's another nice painting. While there's Lakshman doing various services. Of course, Sita knows how to cook, but Lakshmana was cooking and doing this thing and that thing. Here's a similar painting, but different, and by the same artist. And there they are at Panchavati. The cottage is already built. There's Lakshman standing guard. There's Jatayu standing watch. And there's Sita and Ram waiting out their time in the forest. There's Sita picking some flowers and some berries, etc., etc. Another nice painting. And at this place, at Panchavati, in the forest, here comes Shurpanakha. Now, who is Shurpanakha? Shurpanakha is one of the 3 siblings of Ravana. Ravana had 2 brothers and a sister. And the sister was named Shurpanakha. And she was together with 2 of her brothers, Kara and Dushan, because they were in charge of an outpost of Ravana's kingdom, because Ravana's kingdom was in an island, and the outpost was in the Dandak forest. And Shurpanakha was just wandering around doing the Shurpanakha, and lo and behold, she saw Ramachandra. This painting shows Ramachandra with a little beard, but I don't think that's right. And she, being who she is, she became very attracted to the beauty of Ramachandra. And very brazen, she stepped forward, nice painting with her hands on her hips and said, "Woo, woo, woo, marry me." She didn't beat around the bush. "You're very handsome. You're a suitable husband for me. I have powers. I can take you here and there. Let's go." And Ramchandra replied, smiling at the brazen Shurpanakha, "This isn't a very good idea, because you see over here, here's my wife, and you want to be a co-wife? Because that's not so nice. But you see that young man over there? That's my brother. His name is Lakshman, and his wife isn't with him. So why don't you go and request marriage from him?" So Shurpanakha, being the kind of person she was, she just followed that advice, and Lakshman declined. And the only thing that's standing between me and the one I wanted to marry is that lady. So she decided to attack. Here's Ram gesturing to Lakshman, saying, "Why don't you go for him? He's very handsome. He's also very young. You're very beautiful. You make a good match." So when she started lunging at Sita to eat her, that was it. So, "Lakshman, stop her." And so Lakshman stopped her. And the Lakshman stopped her with his sword. He cut off her nose, cut off her ears, and her body, this painting is showing, her body then became transformed into the Rakshasi that she was, instead of this nice-looking lady. And as she's with her nose bleeding and her ears bleeding, she went running back to Kara and Dushan. And they screaming and wailing and doing what Rakshasis do sometimes. And what happened? What happened? Tell us what happened. She said, "What happened? Do something, take revenge." And Kara said, "Stop your wailing." Immediately, he sent 14 generals to go kill the person who had damaged his sister this way. When they came charging, you see in the painting up there on a hill, Ram sent Lakshman to put Sita in a safe place up on the hill, while he single-handedly dealt with these 14 generals and made quick order of finishing off the 14 generals. And when the 14 generals were killed, then immediately Kara sent 3 more generals. There's their names. And those 3 generals, this is a Muslim painting, you see the Arabic writing. They liked Ramayana. Although their religion was different, they liked Ramayana because he's Ram, he's the Supreme Lord. They didn't necessarily appreciate he's the Supreme Lord, but the story of Ramayana is so charming, they loved it. So here's their Arabic writing. I don't know what it says. And they painted these 3 demons in a very interesting way. And immediately, there's Ramachandra taking care of all 3 of them with his sharp arrows. And that news went back that the 14 generals and the 3 additional generals, these are like right-hand men of Kara. And they were all killed single-handedly. So he, Kara, Dushan, and the 3rd very powerful person, his name starts with a T. Trishiras? Does it ring a bell? No? There's the same Arabic painters depicting. You see his name at the bottom, Trishira. So Ram destroyed him with his arrows. And here comes Kara with Dushan and the 3-headed general Trishiras and 4,000 soldiers. That's a lot of soldiers to be anywhere involved in the forest. Single-handedly, Ram finished them. Notice in the painting on the upper right, up on the hill, you see a cave. Who's up in that cave? Lakshman, protecting Sita. So they saw the whole thing. And not only he killed Trishiras and Dushan, but he finished Kara. Finished. Now, one surviving soul was Anukampa. Oh, excuse me, Akampana. So there's Akampana making its way back to Lanka, giving a report to the 10-headed Ravana about his brothers being killed. Oh, Ravana's blood was boiling. He wanted to do something. And he then went to one of his associates. Who did he go to? You know his name. Starts with an M. Marichi. So knowing that Marichi was very mystical and very powerful and very, very everything, he was the right guy. So there's Ravana not showing his 10 heads, but yes, there's his 10 heads, speaking to Marichi, who's off doing austerities. And he said, I have some service for you. And the service I have for you is I want you to destroy Ramachandra. And Marichi froze and became silent and shook his head and gave the whole story of how he had already had an encounter with Ramchandra. That encounter you all know, those of you that know Ramayana. What was the encounter, the previous encounter with Marichi? You can say quickly? Yeah, no, he later became a deer, but before that, who was the first demon that Ramchandra killed? What was her name? Shirpanaka. No. Huh? Yeah, Tataka. Tataka had two sons, Subahu and Marichi. So Ramachandra killed the mother, Tataka. Then later, Ramchandra was taken with Lakshman to protect the ashram of Vishwamitra, because these two were coming and destroying their sacrifices. The two were Marichi and Subahu. You with me? You remember the names, right? Okay. So when Ram dealt with them, Subahu was slain and Marichi was hit with an arrow and went flying, hit by the arrow. So many yojanas, several hundred yojanas, landed in the sea. Whoa. And he was powerful, a mystic, powerful Rakshasa. So he learned his lesson, don't mess with Ram. So here's Ravana saying, not only go mess with Ram, but kill Ram. So in the background you see, there's the painting of Ram, and he's telling Ravana, don't mess with Ram. Do yourself a favor. I'm not doing it, but do yourself a favor. I'm not doing it, and you shouldn't either. Don't mess with Ram. However, Shurpanaka knew how to twist the pride and anger and bad qualities of her brother, so she insisted, stomped her little foot, and called him names and said, if you don't, you're not worthy of being the king. You have to take revenge. Look at my body, my nose, my ears. Take revenge. You're powerful. Who can stop you? She said all the right words. So he decided to do it. But again, he went to Marichi. And this time, he didn't take no for an answer. He said, look, either you try to kill Ram or I'll kill you right now. I mean, there's many things he said back and forth. But Marichi said, better to be killed by Ram because he's noble and you're not. So let me be killed by him. So then Ravana unfolded his plan. You have mystic powers. you can assume the form of a golden deer, and you assume the form of a golden deer, and then Sita will want to possess the golden deer, and you go running off into the forest, and Ramchandra will follow the bidding of Sita, then I can capture Sita. Because, oh yes, very important. What Shurpanakha said was, you should, not only you should kill Ram, you should kidnap his wife. Because she's just meant for you. Woo, woo, woo. You have many queens. She's better than any of those queens. Go for it. You're the lustiest guy I know. Get Sita. He liked that idea. So there they are in Panchavati, sitting in their nice little cottage that was built by Lakshmana. And Sita's doing the cooking, and Lakshman and Ram are enjoying her nice cooking. Imagine Sita's cooking, what that would be like. And there's the deer. And Sita sees the deer. She gets all excited. Lakshman says, that's not a deer. Whoever saw a deer like that, changes colors like a rainbow. That's not a deer. That's a Rakshasa. Don't go for it. It's a trick. It's a trick. And he insisted. And what did Sita say? She didn't pay any attention to Lakshman at all. That's an offense. Because Lakshman in Ramayana is like Balaram is to Krishna, or Nityananda is to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's like Guru. He's the representative of. He's the representative of Ramchandra. And she's just ignoring him as if he doesn't even exist. That was a big mistake, because it's an offense. And you can be Sita, but you don't make offense. We're not Sita, and we don't make offense, because this offense is real stuff. So, by her insisting, Ramchandra said, if Lakshman's right and it's a Rakshasa with my sharp arrows, I'll kill him, no problem. And Sita said something else that's remarkable. She said, even if you can't capture him, you know how much I like the garden in Ayodhya, and we'll go back in Ayodhya, it'll be so nice. And the deer can be in the garden of Ayodhya, it'll be so nice. And if you can't capture him alive, you can kill him. And then together we can sit on a deer skin in Ayodhya. Is that Sita? Not Sita. Who's speaking like that? It's some ventriloquist. She made a mistake. No, it's Leela, because she's the consort of the Supreme Lord who doesn't make mistakes. But she made a mistake for sake of Leela. She was induced by the Supreme Lord to do like this. And so she convinces Ram to go to the forest and find the golden deer and bring back the golden deer. So he chases the golden deer and chases the golden deer and chases the golden deer. He told Lakshman, don't leave Sita's side. Don't leave Sita's side. There he is at the bottom of the painting, shooting the deer. And when the deer gets shot, it's part of the plan, Ravana's plan, call out in a voice that sounds just like Ramachandra, Lakshman, Sita, help, Lakshman, Sita. So Sita hears that calling of a voice. It sounds just like Ram's voice, because he's a mystic person who called out after he was shot. And there goes Ram after the deer. There he is shooting the deer. And Sita looks at Lakshman, who doesn't move. Lakshman, you heard? Go help him. He doesn't need help. He's the personality of Godhead. It's a trick. And so then she started saying really bad things to Lakshman. Go. Why are you standing here? Now I understand. All this time you've been here with us, here in the forest, you've been meditating on being with me. in Ram's absence, now you've got your chance. No way, you're never going to touch me. Get out of here. If you don't go and protect Ram and save Ram, I'll take my life. I'll enter into fire. And she said many heavy things. That's it. That's, 3 strikes and you're out. He's offended Lakshman 3 times. Bad. So it's not in Valmiki Ramayana, but it's in some of the Ramayanas, like Tulsi Ramayana. You see in this painting, Lakshman drew a circle around the Panchavati cottage and said, don't step outside the circle. If you stay inside the circle, you're protected. So here's another painting which shows the circle, and Ravana appearing as if he's a mendicant, and Sita is a virtuous lady. She wanted to serve the mendicant who was there in the forest. But he induced her to step over the circle. So here, another painting. And there's the deer in the back. And there's Lakshman. Of course, Lakshman wasn't with Ram when this happened. There you see very, very, very close to the cottage, you see that little circle again? And in order to give him some alms, she reaches across that little circle, and that's when he takes advantage and grabs her arm and whisks her off into the sky, because he's a Rakshasa that has powers. And there she goes into the sky. And she calls out for Ram and Lakshman to help. And as she calls out for Ram and Lakshman to help, who would come but Jatayu? Back to Jatayu, because he was left behind all the time to guard and protect Sita. And there's Ravana grabbing Sita's hair and taking off with Sita. Now, this painting shows that he had a chariot rather than just flying in the air, because he had a chariot. And Jatayu calls out very loudly the name of Ram, according to Ramayana, with the name of Ram on his tongue. He speaks some strong words to Ravana. And Ravana laughs. And he says, you're so powerful, but I'm not going to, while I'm still alive, you're not going to be able to take Sita away with no interference. And so he went flying after Ravana. There's different paintings. Again, this is in Arabic on the background, on the upper right-hand side. And there's a big battle that ensued between him, Jatayu, and Ravana. In the course of the big battle between him and Ravana, he broke his chariot. He killed the asses that were pulling, or donkeys that were pulling the chariot. But then Ravana became very disturbed, and powerfully he chopped off his arms, his wings. Here's another more modern painting. This is a BBT painting. See how big Jatayu is, and he's got the asses in his claws. A big fight. There's the 10-headed Ravana. Poor Sita, terrified by this situation, and he chops off Jatayu's wings. And this painting we saw earlier. So Sita is very distressed. And as this painting is showing, there's the chariot broken into pieces. There's the horses upside down, dead. There's Ravana carrying away Sita. And in the upper right, as she's passing over Rishimukh mountain, she's dropping her jewels or her ornaments in a cloth. And then she sees some Vanaras on top of the mountain, and she drops the jewels off. Now this painting is a B.G. Sharma painting, very nice. Jatayu is clawing the body of Ravana. And it's not at the same time, it happened much later, further south. And then Sita's gone. And after Sita's gone, what happens? Ram finds Lakshman. Lakshman finds Ram. And what are you doing here? I told you don't leave. Where's Sita? Well, she's back at the cottage. So they went back to the cottage, and we went back to the cottage. Sita wasn't there. They saw a big mess of, the chariot and the horses and the whole thing. So Sita's been kidnapped, and they searched and searched and searched and searched and searched and searched, and now comes this Vipralamba. The love and separation from Sita is just beginning. And this is towards the end of the 14 years in the forest, and they were getting ready to go back to Ayodhya, but now this calamity. So searching and searching, and many, many, many verses in Ramayana of Ram's expression of love and separation from Sita, and they can't find her. So Lakshman says words of encouragement to Ram, let's continue looking, we'll surely find her. So they continue looking, and instead of finding her, they find Jatayu. And when they first see Jatayu, Ram is thinking maybe this is a trick. He got an arrow ready, fixed the arrow to his bow, and as he got closer, he saw it wasn't a Rakshasa, it was Jatayu. And he saw bloody Jatayu with his wings chopped off. And homes need a playground, I guess. One of the words spoken by Jatayu towards the end, just before he expired, he assured Ram, don't worry, I assure you. The kidnapping took place at what is known as the Vinda hour, and according to scripture, treasure that's lost at the Vinda hour is regained. So surely you will get Sita back. And I want to share, because part of what we're doing this evening, at least my understanding is, our hostess recently lost the association of her father, and this is the grieving period traditionally. So these words are in his honor, and it's the words that Jatayu spoke to Ramachandra before he left his body. And it's filled with moral instruction and transcendental instruction and words of courage. So I'm just going to read. This is paraphrase, it's not the exact translation of the Valmiki Ramayana. Jatayu says to Ram, you're not just the king of Ayodhya, you're the king of the universe. Like Indra and Varuna are also very elevated in universal affairs, you're the king of kings. So he's saying, these are words that I spoke. Jatayu is saying, these are the words that I spoke to Ravana as he's carrying Sita away. He had a nice lesson. You're also a king. And you desire to kidnap the wife of such a king? How can you lay hands on another king's wife? A queen is always to be protected. There are 7 mothers, and one of those mothers is the wife of a king. The wife of the king is to be protected. And you're kidnapping her to take her away? This mentality of yours of abducting another man's wife, what to speak of Ram's wife, such acts are deplorable. A thoughtful person will always protect another person's wife as if he would protect his own wife. This is just nice dharmic lessons. Now, this young man that knows Ramayana, Maryadama Purushottama. You've heard that phrase before? Yeah. What does it mean? What's your understanding of Maryadama? Yeah, it's the Uttama man, the topmost Purushottama. Uttama means topmost. The topmost man. That's the name of Vishnu, who's Purushottama, the topmost person. And Maryadama means Ramchandra is known as one who always upholds Dharma. He never deviates from Dharma. I'll say it again. Maryada Purushottama means the supreme person who always abides by Dharma, never deviates from Dharma. That's Ramchandra. So again and again and again and again, there's lessons in Ramayana about the Uttama form of Dharma. This is one coming from Jatayu. He's speaking Dharma. So many of you here, you know these four, Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. But then there's the Uttama Dharma, and it's beyond these four. The Uttama Dharma, the Uttama Dharmi, the person who follows Dharma, doesn't violate those four, but that's not the principle in which they live, or act, or speak. And Ramchandra did all of those things, plus, the topmost, set the example of the topmost ideal person, Maryadama Purushottama. So, Jatayu is speaking similarly. Dharma, Artha, and Kama are prescribed by learned men because they are not obvious in Scripture. And a king has to set the example for all those things because people in general don't know. That is to say, Jatayu is reminding Ravana of his ancestry. Who was Ravana's father? Most elevated Brahmana. What was the Vishravas? Vishravas? Yeah. So the sage Vishravas was Ravana's father. He's reminding of his ancestry. Your father is an exalted Brahmana. Look at you. You something went wrong with you. This is something that's done for persons who are noble, and to remind them of their nobility and to abide by nobility in the actions and behaviors and speech of a noble person. It's an attempt by Jatayu to restore Ravana to his good sense. Didn't work. Then he starts speaking strongly. You're sinful and whimsical. Because of your sinful acts, you have this vimana that you can travel here and there, but because you have a bad tendency, a bad nature, it's hard to change it. Prosperity can make one become very deviant and devious. So it's difficult in dealing with a person like you. Please consider, when Shurpanakha was dealt with the way that she was dealt with, she was going to attack Sita. It was just protection of Sita that was the cause of her being damaged the way she was damaged. And Kara and Dushan, when Ram killed them, he didn't kill them because he had done something against them or they had some enmity. Ram didn't provoke them. He was just protecting. Again, give up Sita immediately. Don't call upon yourself the wrath of Ram by abducting Sita. You're in big trouble. You're like holding on to the tail of a venomous serpent and tying the serpent to your cloth. You're going to be destroyed by your own actions. And you don't see it. That's why I'm speaking it. It's philosophical and it's strong, but it's nice to hear. We may not be in a situation where we can speak like this to somebody, but Jatayu is fearless and bold, and he's speaking like this to Ravana. It's not like Ravana wasn't given a chance to set the record straight. One should carry only weight that one can bear without tiring. One should not eat more than one can digest without falling ill. Know your limits. You're past your limits. This is too much sinful. Give it up. Restore Sita. Take her back to Panchavati. So there's this life, and then there's your next life. You're finished. Please desist. Ravana, I have dedicated myself to serving my father. Who was his father? Aruna, right? Yeah. Aruna? Aruna. And forefathers for 60,000 years. Jatayu was very old. I'm old while you are equipped with bow and arrows on a chariot and fully armored, yet you will not be able to safely take Sita away from here. You cannot forcibly take Sita under my watch. Stand and fight. No, he tried reason, he tried logic, he tried flattery, he tried reminding of his ancestry, he tried and he tried and he tried. But he wasn't going to let Sita go without making an earnest effort. He says all these things to Ramchandra before leaving his body. And then he gasps and is choking on blood. And Ram is crying, expressing great sorrow. At the same time, the privilege of providing the final rites for Jatayu. He's washing his body and so forth and so on. And at the end, this four-armed form of Vishnu-like form ascends from the body of Jatayu, and he's going to go to Vaikuntha because his whole life was dedicated to the service of Ram and before the service of Dasarath, and his consciousness, although he's in a different kind of a body, was fully absorbed in thoughts of and in the service of Lord Ramachandra. So that's the life form is not glorious, but the outcome is certainly glorious. And that's the end of our little presentation. And I thought it'd be nice to hear something, these nice words of Jatayu, again, as a reminder, as a dedication to her father's departed soul, that hearing nice instructions, may her father's departed soul also ascend to a better destination. To achieve what Jatayu achieved requires special bhakti. But, each one of us, according to Scripture, each one of us can deliver our forefathers if we become pure in devotion. Even after their departure, we can still render service to departed souls through the power of bhakti. So that's for any one of us and every one of us. That's a nice lesson. It's just described in detail. You can read it in the story of King Nriga, who became a lizard, and it's a very nice description. So that's our discussion for this evening. Jatayu's departure. So let's see if there's some discussion. I'm very patient. I can be very patient. You did pretty well. You sat through this whole thing. How much of this could you follow, the story? You like the story? Yeah.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Here. In the back.
Okay,
Yeah.
gotcha.
So I have a question. So this is from what I read or what I heard regarding the Jatayu story, that as we are doing this program in memory of my wife's father.
Yes.
So the question is somewhat related to this.
Okay, good.
That what I read or what I heard was like Prabhu Sri Ram, he did the last rites
Yes.
for Jatayu.
Yes, he did.
So can you just shed some light on that part, or
Well, what do you mean shed some light on?
so
The-
like
He doesn't give it any detail of what the rituals were that he did. You know, he's off in the forest, and so obviously there's modest of what he could do, but he did, there's, you know, offering of water, offering of certain prayers, etc. It doesn't say that he, to my memory, it doesn't say that he performed a fire, put the body of Jatayu into a fire, but because it doesn't, to my knowledge, it doesn't say that. It's just prayers for the destiny of the soul. You know, let's do this. Go back to Chitrakoot. And when Ram heard that his father had left his body, left the world, he went to the river and offered water into the river with certain prayers. So it's respecting the departed soul with some formalities. But it's not just observing formalities. It's, you know, the well-being of the soul is being respected in certain procedural ways. So it's like the painting showed, they brought water, didn't say from where, and they offered the water for the departing soul of Jatayu.
yeah. So my question was around like, because there are so many misconceptions or like formalities, that who has to do the final rites and who not. And so I think so Prabhu Sri Ram, when he did the last rite for Jatayu, and I guess there was no
There were
blood.
no brahmanas in the
Right.
forest.
Yeah.
So he did what he could do, should do, given the circumstance. Now, if one has qualified brahmanas, you know, like you say, different ideas. You ask different brahmanas, you get different ideas. That's my experience. But therefore, it's good to know people that are in disciplic succession by Siddhanta, and also in disciplic succession for the procedures. Now, in modern times, for you and for me and for us in the room, there are devotees that are well acquainted with Hare Bhakti Vilas, and they know the procedures. And they're simplified, medium, and far more elaborate procedures. The simplified is what's essential. So find somebody in this, you know, in the future, find somebody that knows those procedures and can do them in a brahminical function on your behalf. Is
Thank
that
you,
right?
Prabhuji. Yeah.
That's what you're looking for.
Okay. Thank you.
Hare Bhakti Vilas is the text, that's the source.
Thank you. I don't know if I missed that part. We joined you in the middle of your
Oh,
pravachan. But this particular, how do you relate the story of Jatayu with with Mukesh's father-in-law or Kirti's father departing?
The inspiration was the departure of a soul who is dear to the personality of Godhead. And when one, let's go this here. This is the starting point. The starting point is two references. One is from Baladev Vidyabhusan's commentary on Vishnu Sahasranam. Specifically in his commentary on Vishnu Sahasranam, he points to this one of the 1,000 names of Vishnu, to Jatayu, where because of the devotion that Jatayu had for Ram, Ram personally came and performed his funeral, showing his love for Jatayu. I mean, it could have been some other way, but that's the way that it was. It was illustrating or indicating the love of Jatayu for Ram. So, and Ram is very kind unto such persons. That's the connection. The soul's connection with the personality of Godhead, and the personality of Godhead's reciprocation with one who has affection for him. That's the linking point. And here's another one. We cut the part that you missed. This is towards the beginning. But in the Harinama Vyakarana by Jiva Goswami, there's this passage where it says the Supreme Lord desires the surrendered souls, his surrendered souls, to be in his presence. And that's illustrated also by this Jatayu. So the connection, or the function that we're observing this evening, is the departing soul, and the importance of the departing soul to have accumulated some pious merit, transcendental piety, by service to the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord intervenes on that soul's behalf. That's the connection. And then his question is, what can we do from our position? The soul has departed. What can we do? The procedures of offering our well wishes and prayers and so forth that speed and enhance the journey of the soul to its ultimate destination. It helps take the emotion from the body and transfers the emotion to the soul that's no longer in the body, the spiritual well-being part. That's the connection. You have something.
Online, Guru Maharaj.
Okay.
Is there a reason why Mother Sita speaks so negatively towards Lakshman? Was it an awareness that speaking like that would progress Ram's Leela? Is there any writing that speaks on her
yes.
thoughts during this conversation
Oh,
with
yes.
Lakshmana?
Oh, yes. Bunches. And it's a Leela, as the question indicates. It's a Leela. That, you know, in really simple terms, don't offend Lakshman. Don't offend Lakshman. We had the other evening, don't offend Lakshman. Dvidvida, we had this whole evening about Dvidvida. And his boo-boo was offending Lakshman 3 times. There's consequences for offense. It's not light. So Sita, there's several things, but Sita's speaking as she spoke to Lakshman was offensive. He had no such. But so she was offending him, and there's consequences. The Leela is to teach us there's consequences for such things. Because had she not spoken to Lakshman, then Ravana couldn't have taken Sita. But she spoke that way so that Ravana could come and take Sita and the rest of the Leela. You're householders with children, and you're used to that kind of sound, and I'm not. So pardon me for pausing like that. Anything else?
हरे कृष्ण महाराज,
Hare
दंडवत
Krishna.
प्रणाम. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, गुरु महाराज की जय. So I just want to share, like when my father left, I was reading 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, and middle of that, he left his body.
Really? 15th
And-
chapter.
Yes.
Ooh,
I was reading, and he was like the mantra.
Just
was
listening.
Like, yeah. And during that time, he left his body. And but after his death, I was like kind of with so much emotions. Later, I found Prabhuji, Satyasai Prabhuji said like he left in the like on the day of Bahulashtami.
really?
And when we were doing the cremation, Satyasai Prabhuji came and some devotees came and they were doing kirtan for him at the time of cremation. And today is 10th day, and the soul is still here on earth, not started his journey. And soul got your association. He's hearing maybe here from you. We got your presence. That itself making me satisfied that definitely my father will go at the better place or like destination. Yeah, Sadgati. And I just want to thank you to you that you and Satyasai Prabhuji, you just bless on us, and thank you so much.
I have some thought that I want to share in response to what you just shared. On the car ride over here, I was informed that on your father's behalf, you would like to offer, there's a table in the back with many books. And anybody that wants a book can receive a gift from this family in honor of her father, the soul of her father. So I had this thought on the way over. Making a gift, a transcendental gift, from this family to others on behalf of their father it's a transcendental gesture. The benefit will go to their father. But supposing many of you don't need a book because you already have books. You can look and see if there's any books you don't have, you can take one. However, for those of you that already have books, you can do some nice service for the soul of her father by taking a book and giving it to somebody that doesn't have a book. The Shastradan. You don't have to put it in your library. You can give it to somebody. And it doesn't have to be somebody that's poor and can't afford a book. It's just the gift. I'm going to tell two stories. Just this morning, I was listening to a recording of a room conversation with Srila Prabhupada, and I forget the city that they were in, but the devotee that was, one of the devotees in the room was speaking about their experience in book distribution. Prabhupada was saying, the more we can distribute books, the more we can change the course of the history of mankind. The more we can distribute books. And then a book distributor, spoke up when he was finished. The mother that recognizes the voice of that child can please do the needful. Father or mother, do the needful, because somebody's out of control over there. So please pay attention. Please pay attention. This is a message that's on, for the occasion of her father, the soul of her departed father. The devotee was saying, Prabhupada, sometimes people don't want, they're willing to take the book, but they don't want to give a donation. And he gave an example. He said, one man came up to me the other day and said, I'll take your book, but I won't give you a donation. He approached the book distributor saying, I'll take your book, but I won't give a donation. And the devotee said, no problem. You take the book. I have only one request, that you read the book. And then he spoke something about what's in the book. And then he said, he gave the man the book, said, please read it. Yes, I'll read it. And please give a donation. He said, no, I told you already, I won't give you a donation. So they spoke some more, and back and forth 3 times, and finally the man gave a donation. Through, although he was explicitly, I'll take your book, but I won't give a donation. It's not like the man didn't have the means, but it was the benefit of just touching the book and receiving the gift. He benefited a lot. Here's another story that I heard also this afternoon. There's a devotee from England, a young sannyasi from England, told this story. When he was a brahmachari in the temple in England, in London, a man visited the temple, an Indian man visited the temple. And he just out of curiosity and friendship, he asked the man, how did you get involved? And he told a little story. The little story was, he passed through a traffic light, and the electronics caught him passing through the traffic light when it was red. And so while he's away on vacation, he's getting these notices on his phone saying, you're in violation, you have to pay a fine. And he was in vacation, so he didn't do anything, and it happened 4 times. And the 4th time it said, you're going to get a notice in the mail that says you have to appear in court. So when he got back home, there was the notice in the mail that he has to appear in court. So he appeared in court. He'd never been in court, didn't know anything about it, because, he's a pious man. He'd never been in court before. So in London, he went to the courtroom, and they said, now, in our practice, you have to take an oath. Here's a Bible. Put your hand on the Bible. And he started to repeat what the judge said, and then the clerk said, wait a minute, you're Indian. You can't use the Bible, you have to use Bhagavad Gita. So bring out the Bhagavad Gita, put your hand on the Bhagavad Gita. And he took the oath over Bhagavad Gita. And then he told this young brahmachari, I thought, I better know what's in that Bhagavad Gita. I'm taking an oath on it. It must be something. So I went out of my way, found a Bhagavad Gita, and I started reading it. And in 2 days, I finished it all. And now my life is so oriented towards coming to the temple and seeing the deity and hearing more about Krishna, etc. Or you never know. And I can say how I got my first Bhagavad Gita. It was just inadvertent. Just inadvertent. That this man was an Indian man, but didn't know what was in Bhagavad Gita. But because of the circumstance, he started reading it, and now he's coming to the temple. Who knows? So there's some books on the table, and not like you're poor people, you can't afford a book and you'll take one because they're giving it away. That may be the case. Or maybe you see a title that you don't recognize and you want that book. Take that one. And consider, and for the benefit of the soul of her departed father, take a book, or more than one, and find a person that doesn't have one. And make a gift. Shastra Dan. Make a gift. And the benefit will go to whom? The soul of her father, because this is being done. It's how it works. You do something on behalf of, in the name of someone, and the benefit goes to that someone. That's the Vedic process. Okay.
Online question.
Online question.
How can we appreciate these pastimes metaphorically, since it's well known that in this age, the devotee and the demon lie within the same body?
Well, you amplify the devotee part. And how do you amplify the devotee part? It's by Shravanam Kirtanam, by hearing and chanting. You de-amplify the other and you amplify the devotee part. It's cleansing and awakening. So that's how. That's how. I'm going to tell a little story, another little story. This is a real story. Once upon a time, I was a new devotee. And as a new devotee, one of the services we did during the summer of 1970, a few years ago, we were chanting at the Boston Common. What the Boston Common was selected because this line and that line and that line of the subway system all cross at Boston Common. There's a big park there. And during lunchtime, a zillion people come out because it's, nice weather in the summer. So it was summer. And I was a new devotee. And there was a crazy man that came out every lunch hour. And he was kind of hunched over, and his hair was like this, and his face was like that. He was mad. He was a madman, deranged fellow. And because I was a new guy, I had hair, and and I didn't have a dhoti at that time. So we had this system where we would chant for half an hour, and others would be distributing Back to Godhead magazines and invitations to the temple. And in a half an hour, there was a switch, and we would take turns. So I was chanting, then it was my turn to take some magazines and some invitation cards. And as I was approaching people, this madman came charging up, like spit coming out of his mouth because he was in a rage, saying, don't take that magazine. And he snatched the magazine and started jumping up and down on the magazine. He was a madman. And, and the devotees comforted me, saying, don't worry, he's a madman. Just, we just tolerate him because he comes out and we can't do anything anyways. Towards the end of the summer, just by his coming out and hearing the chanting of the holy name, being a madman, he did a 180. He was still a madman, but whenever we would approach people, he would say, take the magazine, it's good. No, I don't know how people responded to his madness. I'd probably stay away from the guy because he's a mad guy. But he did a complete 180 just from hearing and being in the company of devotees. So you never know. It's not always going to end like that, but that's what happened. And that was in my first summer of living as a Hare Krishna devotee. I learned it's one of the lessons I learned. This Maha Mantra is very powerful, and congregational chanting is very powerful. Bring it to the public and take this transcendental wisdom and bring it to the public. It's transformational. It's not always going to look like that one, but it's transformational. Back to that question, the answer, part of the answer to the person answering the question. There's two parts within everybody. Let the good part come out and let the other part get cleansed away. Gradually. We have a big task ahead of us. And part of it happens in here. Big part is make our own heart clean so we can be an instrument for others. Beware of offense. It's a big problem. I think that's it. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
His Holiness Romapada Maharaj ki.